Good morning, and welcome to AI Daily for Saturday, July 18th, 2026. Here is your top story. China just shipped the biggest open model the world has ever seen. Overnight, Moonshot AI released Kimi K3, 2.8 trillion parameters, and by its own numbers, beating Claude Opus 4.8 and landing in the global top 4, just behind the very best from Anthropic and OpenAI. And here is the kicker. The full weights go public in 9 days, free for anyone to download and run. For years, the story was that the frontier belonged to a handful of American labs. Today, that story cracked. We will unpack exactly what K3 can do, but first, the rest of today's headlines. Let us start with the numbers, because they are the story. Kimi K3 is a sparse mixture of experts model with roughly 2.8 trillion total parameters, a 1 million token context window, native vision, and always-on reasoning. On the benchmarks Moonshot published at launch, it scored 93.5% on GPQA Diamond, the strongest open weight result on that test to date, plus 88% on Terminal Bench and 91% on BrowseComp. On the Independent Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, K3 comes in fourth of all models, behind only Claude Fable 5 and GPT 5.6 Sol, and ahead of Claude Opus 4.8. In their private arena, it jumped more than 700 yellow points over the previous Kimi, and it currently leads the front-end code arena. It is priced at $3 per million input tokens and 15 on output, the same tier as Claude Sonnet, and the most expensive model a Chinese lab has ever shipped. The weights go open on July 27th. So why does this matter beyond one leaderboard? Because it collapses a gap that used to be measured in years. The best open weights are now within touching distance of the very best closed models. And once they are downloadable, anyone can run them, fine-tune them, and build on them without asking permission or paying a frontier lab. Independent testers were quick to add caveats. These are Moonshot's own numbers until the weights land and the community can verify them. And a giant model is not cheap to actually serve. But the direction is hard to miss. K3 is not arriving into an empty room. Google is widely reported to be readying Gemini 3.5 Pro this month, which would put a fresh closed flagship head-to-head with China's open challenger within weeks. The frontier just got a lot more crowded and a lot more open. To the companies, an illegal fight is escalating fast. According to the Financial Times, Apple has sent legal preservation letters to around 40 of its former employees who now work at OpenAI, telling them to hold on to documents that could be relevant to its trade secret lawsuit. Apple filed that suit last week, alleging a coordinated effort to obtain confidential information about its hardware engineering and product development. It specifically names former Apple executives now at OpenAI, including Tang Tan, a 24-year Apple veteran who is now OpenAI's chief hardware officer. The preservation letters signal Apple believes the alleged leak may reach well beyond the people named in the original complaint. OpenAI has denied the allegations, saying it is not aware of any evidence that the complaint has merit. It is a reminder that as OpenAI pushes into hardware, the talent war with Apple is turning into a courtroom war. And the money is still very much flowing toward open models, no less. Fireworks AI, a platform that helps companies run and fine-tune open-source models in production, announced a $1.5 billion Series D at a $17.5 billion valuation. The round was led by Atreides Management, Index Ventures, and TCV, with existing backers including Lightspeed and NVIDIA joining in. Fireworks says its annualized revenue has now passed $1 billion, up 5 times year over year, while the daily volume of tokens it serves has jumped from 15 trillion to more than 40 trillion. Notice the through line of today's show. On the same day, a Chinese lab redraws the open model map. One of the biggest checks of the week goes to a company whose entire business is making open models useful. The bet on open is not theoretical anymore. It is being funded at $17 billion. That open theme runs straight into today's products. LM Studio, best known as the go-to app for running local models, just launched a separate app called Bionic, and it calls it the AI agent made for open models. Bionic is a full agentic tool. It can create and edit documents, spreadsheets, and slides, spin up a coding project linked to a local folder, and transcribe your voice offline. For code, it can point open models like GLM 5.2 and Kimi K3 code at your codebase to investigate, edit, and debug while you watch the diffs. When a task is too heavy for your own machine, it can route to frontier open models on LM Studio's secure cloud, with zero data retention on by default. Voice runs on Mistral's Voxtral model, fully offline. It is on Mac and Windows today. The pitch is simple but pointed, a private, local-first agent that never has to touch a closed frontier lab. In bigger brand product news, Google is renaming again. Notebook LM, its popular research and note-taking tool, is now called Gemini Notebook, folding it firmly under the main Gemini brand. Google says it is used by more than 30 million people and over 600,000 organizations. It stays a standalone research tool, but it is picking up new powers. A secure cloud computer that can run code directly inside your notebooks for deeper data analysis, rolling out to pro users, and notebooks that sync across the Gemini app, and, soon, Google Search's AI mode. The tool itself is not radically different, but the name change is a signal. Google is done treating these as side experiments and is pulling everything under one Gemini roof. On policy, the biggest moves this week came out of Beijing. As of July 15th, China put into force what analysts are calling the world's first regulatory category dedicated specifically to AI agents. Jointly issued by the cyberspace, planning, and industry regulators, the rules define an agent as a system that can perceive, remember, decide, and act on its own, and then set a three-tier authorization structure that scales required human approval to how consequential an action is, with mandatory filings for agents deployed in high-risk sectors like healthcare, transport, and public safety. Alongside it, China's new rules on human-like AI companions took effect the same day, and the fallout was immediate. ByteDance Doubao and Alibaba's Qwen moved to disable companion-style features, with some user chat data being deleted. Meanwhile, in the United States, the Federal Trade Commission opened public comment on a proposed policy statement about AI accuracy, running through July 31st. Two very different philosophies of AI governance, and both took a concrete step this week. Now the markets, and a reminder, this is facts only, nothing here is investment advice. It was a soft session for the AI chip trade. At Friday's U.S. close, NVIDIA finished down about 2%, near $203. Taiwan Semiconductor fell close to 3%, Broadcom slipped about 1%, and the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index closed down more than 1.5%. The big platform names leaned the same way, Meta and Alphabet both off a bit more than 2%. The sharpest pain, though, has been in Asia. In its most recent session, memory maker SK Hynix fell roughly 11% and Samsung around 9%, with South Korea's Kospi Index down more than 6%. Put the pieces together and you can see the nerves. A new, cheap-to-copy open frontier model out of China lands on a chip trade that was already anxious about whether all this spending pays off. We report the moves. We do not predict them. Finally, what to watch? Mark July 27th. That is when Kimi K3's full weights are due to go open, and the moment the community can finally test Moonshot's benchmark claims for itself. Google's Gemini 3.5 Pro is widely reported to be imminent this month, a new closed flagship to answer the open challenger. And in Washington, the FTC's comment window on AI accuracy runs through July 31st. That is your morning briefing. This has been AI Daily, fully AI-generated, facts-checked against primary sources, and no investment advice. Thanks for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. AI Daily. Every morning, the AI world in under 15 minutes. Subscribe and come back tomorrow.